My name is Jacob Vernick. I'm a sales engineer here at NewBlue, and welcome to Discover Captivate, a brand new webinar series from NewBlue. Alrighty, let's get going. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. This is Discover Captivate, a webinar series we started 2 weeks ago here at NewBlue. It is June 19th. It is 3:02 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, today is our second episode. We are back from InfoComm, no longer, as we were discussing, in the sweltering heat, nor the freezing air conditioning of the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. It was a fantastic show. I don't know if anyone else was there this year. We got to catch up with some old friends, and then do my favorite thing, which is learn about a ton of new technologies from all the vendors that are there, and digital signage, live video, all the different things that make InfoComm the show it is. And of course, not just the vendors, but it's such a pleasure when current customers come by or people learning about us for the first time. We actually had somebody from the first webinar, Daniel Sells, stop by. He mentioned he was at our first webinar, and even though I can't see any of you, it was very validating to know that you are out there. So again, we're going to dive into NewBlue Captivate today, which, if you're unfamiliar, our live graphics and live production powerhouse. So if you were here last week, a lot of it is going to look familiar. We're going to have some different things show up towards the end. But if you are new, welcome. To give you a quick overview, Captivate is designed for producers who want flexibility without sacrificing design. So whether you're just working solo, you're part of a studio team, you're diving into live production for the first time, Captivate empowers you to stay agile and still deliver broadcast quality graphics that elevate your brand. So if you've been having any challenges creating custom looks, updating graphics with new data quickly, or just have been unable to figure out some more complex products, or have maybe hit a wall with some of the more simple products, then you're in the right place. So without further ado, we're going to dive in a little bit. So again, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, please feel free to follow along if you have a free trial, if you have a license with us. If you don't, free trials can be found on our website, newbluefx.com. Feel free to scan the QR code. That's got a lot, nope, this shoulder. Got a lot of great resources to be able to access. I tried to convince Naomi to make it a Rickroll, but she was not having it. It actually gives you things that you need and is not just a prank from 15 years ago. So we are going to dive in right now. I'll start sharing my screen. And again, we'll be doing a live Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions as we go, just drop them in the chat and we will get to them at the end. So what I want to show you first is all of the things that Captivate is capable of, right? So I've built out a project right here for a few different use cases. Use case number one, maybe you're doing a webinar, right? Let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Maybe you're doing a webinar and you want to be able to have a title screen with a countdown clock and maybe today's date. And you want to have your lower thirds with your single, right? So here I am. We can build out different things like an agenda, right? So if we have a custom agenda, we want to be able to have this from a Google Sheet, a Excel file, a CSV file. We can pull in this live data to be able to customize our agenda items. We can also build out things like custom picture in pictures, right? So if I wanted to have my screen shared mixed with my live video source, right? We can start to just build maybe a more engaging kind of production than what we have here today. The thing we're going to actually spend a little bit more time on today than we did last time is going to be sports, right? So I can come down here, and this is from our Flux Sports package. So everything you're seeing with all these graphics, all based on our template. So these are all drag and drop, ready to go. You pull them out of the oven and they're already cooked, right? So all you have to do is change the colors, upload the logos, and you are ready to go. We have things like scoreboards, right? Maybe a motion bug, a station bug that you can use right here. And if you needed to have multiple channels, you can also output, maybe channel 1 is just your score bug, and then channel 2 is going to be your stack graphics or anything like that. So a lot of different options available to you, including things like stat graphics or leaderboards or schedules, right? All of those different elements are available to you in Captivate. Lastly, maybe you're doing something a little bit more like news. You're doing maybe government meetings, or you're doing high school news or broadcast news, whatever that is. These ones are actually not based on templates that have been published yet. They're based on templates that will be available to you as an add-on coming very, very soon. So things like lower thirds for breaking news or for any type of, news of the day that you can, again, tie to a spreadsheet, tied to a JSON feed, XML feed, RSS feed, and pull in that information. You can bring in things like a live bug, build out full screens, right? And hopefully this just gets the wheels turning, maybe gets your imagination going as to what is possible with this software if once you learn the basics and are able to get up and running. So let's dive into a blank project so we can talk a little bit more about what Captivate is capable of. So I'm going to click over here on this setup window, but it's going to kick over to my other monitor for a sec. And this setup window is what you're going to see when you launch Captivate for the very first time. So I'll just walk through this. The first thing I'll say is that this does work on Windows and Mac. So whatever compute, I'm using a Mac M3 MacBook Pro today. Basically any Windows or Mac device, we have some bare minimum requirements, but if it's pretty recent within the last few years, Captivate should be able to run on it. The windows we're looking at, we'll start up over here on the left-hand side. We've got our project panel. This is where our graphics are going to live once we start adding them to our project. Our graphics, our media, any elements that we add. We have our shot launcher here. I'll get into that a little bit more later. A shot is just basically combining graphics and elements into a single asset. Our preview window and our program monitor right here. This little drop down right here is going to allow you to choose how you want to send your graphics out. So NDI, HDMI, you can use our OBS plugin. If I had, like an Ultra Studio or a JA card or a Decklink Duo, some sort of Blackmagic card hooked up, I would have an SDI output option as well. And then I could send out key and fill into my switcher or wherever it needs to go. Down here, we have our audio mixer and our video switcher. We're not going to spend too much time with either of those today. We've got our properties panel right here, which is going to be where all of our data options are going to live. So updating the live values or anything like that. And that is the overall basic layout. If you ever need to access a specific window, you can just click on it up here and it will open that window. All right, let's talk about a couple other things quickly. So if I come up here to my settings, there are a few options here that, just good to know for getting started. For instance, changing the language if English is not your first language, selecting where the audio monitor should come out. The main one I'll highlight here is just the project. This is where you can select, hey, I want to be able to send out 1080 5994 progressive or interlaced or 4K if you're using Captivate Broadcast. All of those options are available to you up there in the project settings, as well as our integration options with ATEMs specifically. Over here, we have the ability to add a second channel or add as many channels as you want if you have Captivate Broadcast. So again, I talked about that Captivate Sport workflow. Maybe you have a score bug on channel 1 and then all of your other graphics on channel 2. Well, Captivate Sport only comes with one channel. We have add-ons that make it, cheaper than broadcast, but you can still get an additional channel just added directly to your license. All right. So now let's actually dive in to adding graphics, building out a project, building out a show that you want to produce. A couple different things we can do. I'm going to start down here in Add New Item. In Add New Item, I can open up a new title or graphic. So this is just going to give you like a name and subtitle. If you want to build something from scratch using our title designer, a title or graphic option is a great way to start right there. You can bring in an After Effects composition. Again, something we're not going to spend a ton of time on today, but you can bring in an AEP file or a Mogert file directly into Captivate and then update the data live directly from Captivate. So again, if you are more comfortable building graphics in After Effects, you can just import those directly and then even tie them to something like a CSV, a Google Sheet, an on-site scoreboard, and be able to update the graphic from your After Effects live. Shot layouts, again, I'll get into this a little bit more after we talk about certain graphics. Media sequences, if I add a media sequence, this is going to allow me to build a playlist of videos. So if I have a commercial break, for instance, and I want to run 4 MP4s back to back, I can just add a new media sequence, select which 4 videos I want to add, and then play those out in order from my project. We have transitions for when you're using the switcher here. These are just some custom transitions you can use. You can bring live audio and video sources in, right? So maybe I can bring in my webcam that you're looking at here, my FaceTime camera over here, or my shared screen, or my audio, my Yeti microphone, whatever I want. Some workflow options down here, and then we can import content directly into Captivate as well. So this would where I would be able to, another way I could bring in an MP4, MOV, WAV file, AAC file, MP3 file, whatever it is. However, the easiest way to get up and running is to come into the library, right? So this is where all of the different folders of graphics we have are going to live. And I can come over here if I wanted to change it to like a list view. That's one option. And then I could also change it to the larger view, which I prefer right here. And we have tons of different types of graphics, right? And you can just kind of click through and find them. They're all going to be different types. So for instance, if I could come into my Flux Sports, this is something if you purchase a license, we're giving this away with Captivate Sport today. So if you purchase Captivate Sport, you'll get the Flux Sports collection included in that as well. And you can see all sorts of different graphics we have, right? Different starting lineup graphics, different scoreboard graphics, different stat graphics. These are all of the different types of, graphics we have available for sports, right? Again, it runs the gamut. We have a ton of different types of graphics. If you hover over a graphic right here, you'll get a preview of what it looks like. All of those individual elements can be edited, changed using our title designer or just using the properties panel, right? So I'm going to back out of here for a second. We have again, a whole bunch of different types of graphics, including like social media types of graphics. So if you wanted to pull in live Facebook data, if you wanted to pull in live X data, YouTube, Zoom, Teams, whatever it is, we have a bunch of pre-baked graphics that you can use to be able to, just show what those look like. But I'm going to start with just a simple lower third today. So I'm going to go into our Cubic folder. This is what I was using for that webinar example a little bit earlier. To add a graphic to your project, you're just going to want to come down here, hover over it, drag and drop it into your project panel, and now you have access to this lower third. So now if I click on play, it will play in program, and if I click off of it, it will turn off. A few different options right here. Number one, the duration. So if I set the duration to 5 seconds, I don't need to play this graphic off. It will just play on, and then 5 seconds later, this graphic will play off. I have hotkeys right here as well. So if I wanted to do something like 1, I can map this to 1, hit on 1 on my keyboard, and now every time I hit 1, it will turn on. Every time I hit 1, it will turn off, and I can always turn that off. We'll talk about adding a data source a little bit later, but those are the basics of what you are able to do in a project panel. I'm going to turn this graphic back on in my program window to talk about a couple of different things we can do right here in the properties panel. And I see we got a bunch of activity in the chat. I promise I will get to that a little bit later, and I imagine our team is taking care of it already anyway. So a couple different things I can do right here. Well, after I turn the duration off so this graphic doesn't keep turning off on me. There we go. So I've got this graphic in program, and now I want to make an update to what is currently in that lower third, right? I can come over here and type in my name into this live values, hit on enter, and voila. As you can see, it's only going to update the element that has changed. So if only the name is changing, only the name is going to be updated. Same thing with the subtitle, right? I can put in my title, hit on enter, and again, only that element is going to reanimate on. I can come in here to choose image, and then I can just select, for instance, my headshot, put that in, and now I've got a graphic. You can see right here, the color is italicized. This was set up in the graphic itself. This just means that the color cannot be changed live. Once I turn this graphic off, though, you'll see it's grayed out. It is no longer grayed out. And now I could double click here and get a color picker to be able to choose what color I want that to be. So that is option number 1 for updating data. However, that is probably not the most efficient way. It lends yourself to be making a couple extra typos. So option number 2 is going to be the values grid. In the values grid, you can start building out this is basically our own embedded way of building out a spreadsheet of different values within Captivate. So I can come over here and type in Ian Foster. He's our head of sales. So we'll just type in his name, hit on tab, head of sales, and then I can double click right here and bring in Ian's headshot. And now when I play this graphic on, I've got Ian, and then I can double click right here, and I've got Jacob, right? So I've got the different options all built into this kind of spreadsheet, and you can go all the way down the aisle and be able to build these in yourself. Over here, if you wanted to build out a sequence, so let's use like a crawl as an example, or maybe just graphics, maybe a chat where you want to show, one chat message for 10 seconds, and then you want to show the next one, you can start building that out in the sequencer. So if you wanted to build a values grid sequence so that it's just going to auto play through the elements in your values grid, you can add them to your sequence, turn the sequencing on, and play those through. However, I'd say neither of those are necessarily the most popular way of using to update the data of a graphic. I'd say the most popular way is probably by adding a data source over here. So if I click on this add source button, I'm going to get a ton of different options, right? What we're going to do today is come over to general, spreadsheet, and then add a new input. However, as you can see, right, I can come over to, if I wanted to do social media, I can add the chat controller. That's going to allow me to mix and match Facebook, YouTube, Twitter videos, Twitter messages, all in here as well. Sports, hardware, scoreboards, we'll get again into this later. Google Sheets, Excel in the cloud, different things like that, right? But if I come over here to general, I'm going to go to spreadsheet and select new input. So when you click on new input, you're going to have two options. One option to select a file. So if you already have a pre-baked file that you want to use, you can just link directly to that graphic and you're all set. You can also generate a file. This is going to make a file in the exact format that we expect it to be in a CSV format, so that you can just update that spreadsheet and it will automatically link all of your data. So you don't need to worry about dragging and dropping, which I'm going to show you how to do in a second, but it's just going to automatically link all of your data. It knows exactly where it should be. You just have to input the information. What I'm going to do is select a file though. I'm going to come over here into my data folder and add my lower third webinar folder. And as you can see, right, it's just going to link up to this folder. However, you can see all of these values are not assigned. And this is because the title that I've given these graphics, the column header that I've given these graphics, does not match to to what we have predefined in Captivate. So what I need to do now is I need to link the data. I need to tell the data where to go within the graphic. And the way I can do that is coming over here to link data. And now I've got the column headers, right? Full name, title, headshot. All I need to do, click on full name, drag and drop, put it right there, and then rinse and repeat, right? Title, title, headshot, headshot. And you can see that not assigned image goes away. And now all of my graphics are assigned and I have my graphic. And this is going to apply to scoreboard, stack graphics, whatever you want. Open the preview window, click on link data, drag and drop to match what your data should be and where it should go within the graphic. So those are the main pieces of linking data. That is going to be the same regardless of what data source you are using. However, maybe you're not happy with how this graphic looks, right? That is where our title designer comes into play. Our templates are not the be all end all. They are just simply an option within Captivate. So I'm going to hit on edit right here. I could also click on edit graphic over here. And when I click on edit graphic, my title designer is going to open up in my other window. And now I can edit each individual element of this graphic. Now, what does that mean? It means that if I wanted to add a circle to this graphic, maybe a tiny one right here or something. I don't know. Graphic design is not my passion. I could add a little circle right there, right? I can do whatever I want to this graphic. If there are elements I don't like this little square, I can hit back to delete them. I can also right click on them. Every individual element has a ton of customizable features. For instance, what font, what, how should this graphic react as the text keeps expanding, right? So for instance, I have this name right here, and you can see I have an orange box around it. That orange box is going to map to this option, to the option called Fit Text to Box, which means if I double click in here and I continue typing, the text will continue to shrink, right? So the text is always going to get smaller depending on, it's always going to fit the box and continue to get smaller to make sure it fits that box. Whereas the opposite option, Fit Box the Text, is going to make it so that if I continue to type, well, I'll use the subtitle as an example here. If I continue to type in the Fit Box the Text, the box is always going to just continue to expand. No matter how much I type, the text will never get smaller. So depending on what you're trying to do, there are obviously a lot of different options that are going to work the best for you. We have different options over here. For instance, what option should be variable? Again, variable in Captivate talk just means, am I going to want to change this about the graphic, right? This white box, it's not variable because, well, we assume you're going to want to keep it white. However, maybe you want to be able to change what color this is. So we've made this color variable, and we've also made the text variable. There's way too many options for me to be able to dive into in just one conversation today. However, this is where you can set up things like rolling credits or crawls or different things like object following. So should a box get bigger as text gets bigger? A lot of things that we can dive into, and maybe if you guys want to drop in the chat if this is interesting as a deep dive webinar for you guys, maybe that's something we could spend some time on altogether. Last thing I want to show though in the title designer is rather than keyframing everything manually, we have a whole library of transitions. So if you click on this arrow over here in the title designer, come to this drop down and go to transitions and then animations. This is where our whole library of graphics of animations are going to live. So for instance, if I want to do something like pop-up, I can just hover over it and I'll get a preview of what that is going to look like. So you can see product manager maybe bounces in a little bit more when I do that. And now it animates in. And if I wanted to apply this, I just come over here, drag and drop, and now I've got that transition on my graphic. So a lot of different things you can do in the title designer. For instance, you could also import custom, if you go up here to file, import, we can import custom images, import custom videos, PSD files, vector files, image sequence files. So you don't have to start from scratch within here. If you already have a lot of these elements pre-built, you can import them right in and then have your graphics built in the title designer. All right, so the focus of today, what we're going to spend a little bit more time on is just our scoreboard tool. I do want to take a quick sec just to look at the chat, make sure I'm not missing anything important. If there's anything I should spend a little bit of time on right now, let's take a quick look over here. We got a bunch. Anything I need to focus on here? Yeah, Murphy's Law of Demos. I appreciate the understanding here. Okay. Plan data source online like an Excel sheet in OneDrive, will it auto update or does it still need to be saved manually to update? Great question. I will just show you it does not need to be saved manually. I can come over here to productivity, Google Sheets, new input. And now this is already hooked up to my Google Sheet. And let's see if I need to just paste a link. So let me just quickly grab a Google Sheet link just to illustrate this for you. I think this one will do. Let's take a look. Yeah, this should be good. Let's see. Great. So I've got this graphic right here. And for instance, if I had my lower thirds, you will see an option right here called Start Auto Refresh. You can go as low as every 5 seconds right here and turn that on. Now, if I come back over here and I change that name in my Google Sheet to Jacob Vernick, you can trust me that that's what I'm doing. Every 5 seconds, this is going to update. And you can see right there, that name has updated now to Jacob Vernick. So you don't have to save anything in the cloud. If the data source is online, like Excel or Google Sheets, it automatically, as long as we know that that sheet is updated, it's going to update in Captivate as well. All right, so what we're going to spend a little bit of extra time on today, as I mentioned, is our scoreboard tool. So I'm going to come up to our library and I'm going to get a scoreboard. So when we're thinking about scoreboards, right, some places have the luxury of being able to tap into something like a Daktronics All Sport 5000, right? And maybe you can do a serial to USB conversion. And for those of you unfamiliar, that is just one of the most popular scoreboard hardware tools out there, the Daktronics All Sports 5000. Maybe you're working with one of our partners like Scoreboard, and you can send it over the network to be able to send us that data right into the scoreboard, and you don't have to worry about it. What we've learned, though, is that not everyone has that luxury, right? There are difficult setups where the scoreboard, the Daktronics device, and the control room where you're actually producing the video are on opposite sides of the arena, and you can't run cable between them, right? So this is where our scoreboard tool comes into play. So I'm going to come into our Flux Sports collection. I'm going to grab a basketball scoreboard, bring that down into my project. I'm going to add some video just to keep this content a little bit more interesting. So we've got our basketball video right here as well. Gonna X out of the library and then just let everything render up right here. Fantastic. So let's get that video going, and now let's get our scoreboard going. So as you can see, I've got my default scoreboard right there. However, I don't have any way to control that scoreboard. What you're going to want to do, come over here to add source, go over to sports. Again, if you do have that luxury of being able to connect into a Daktronics CG, Fairplay, OES, Tissot, Varsity, WhiteWag, all those different options to pull in the data. Same thing with Scoreboard or Sportscast, right? We can pull in those live data, any XML, JSON. There are a lot of options available to you if the arena makes those options available to you. Again, if they don't, we have the Scoreboard tool option right here. So if I come over and I connect, I was going to kick out on my other window, and I'm going to add it right here. And here we go. Now we're cooking. All right, so I'm just going to reset this, and it's going to set back to all of my, my basic standards. And as you can see, right, I was talking a little bit about the linking data before. It's already automatically linked up for you. All of this information is already set to go, linked up. If there were things I wanted to add, right, I could, if they're, okay, maybe everything isn't correctly linked up, or there are different sorts of things I want to link up, I have all of the different options right here. Let's take a look. And this is how it's going to work, right? It's very basic. It gets you exactly what you need, but I can come over here and add my score. And as you can see, it's going to kick out. If I put this into program, right, I can add this, all these different, I can add my scores. I can get my clock going, right? My game clock. This is going to update. The shot clock's automatically going to update. And then I've got a reset option for my shot clock, or I can call timeouts or change the possession arrow, right? So all these things are available to you. Now, the key is that this doesn't have to be operated by the same user as whoever's running Captivate, right? This can be kicked out to anybody on the same network. So if I come over here to open in browser, I'm going to get a URL that I can share to maybe somebody who's sitting baseline on an iPad, right? And they can just use a touch screen. So if I come over here, I can also show a QR code. So if I load this up on my phone, let's see if I can get this right so that you can see my phone, hopefully a little bit right there. Yeah, I can load that up onto my phone and then I can drive the scoreboard directly from here as well since I'm on the same network, right? So the away team just got a 3 and now the home team's frustrated and they're going to take a timeout, right? And you can see the timeout go there. And I've got all the different options on my clock, every option that you can see right there, right? I have an option here. I can add a custom message in like Jacob 5 for 5 FG, and then click on send and send specific messages as well. So this one doesn't have a message box defined, as you can see right here. But if we wanted to, for instance, map the message to down there, right? We could map a message field down there and then just throw in any custom messages. But if you, for instance, if you had specific stats you wanted to add, there are lots of different options available to you right there. So again, kick this out to somebody on the same network on their phone. Do this however you want to set this up. But the scoreboard tool works for a bunch of different sports: basketball, baseball, lacrosse, hockey, soccer. Am I forgetting one? Football. Yeah. So the scoreboard tool is available to anybody who purchases Captivate Sport, anyone who purchases Captivate Broadcast. And yeah, run wild. So I'll take a quick look at the chat to see if there's anything else we want to talk about in this Q&A. Is there a way to link a Google Sheet or spreadsheet to a leaderboard? I had trouble. Seems linking was geared more towards single lines. Seemed hard to. So yeah. So what you're, well, I'll start with Tanner. Can you show off how to connect the Sportscast Scorebot? A while back, production had to change how they connected to it. Yeah, I don't have an account with Scorebot, but if I come over here to Sportscast, I would just select what sport I'm doing. So let's select basketball. And then you just put in this information, right? You put in your user information, you put in your bot number and your channel, and click on connect, and then that will give you the data that you need to be able to pull in for the sportscast. So if you are having any issues with that, if you've tried that in the past and it hasn't worked, then definitely let us know and we'll look into it. But that is the way to connect a sportscast directly to a scoreboard. Is there a way to link a Google Sheet or spreadsheet to a leaderboard type graphic? I had trouble. Seems linking was geared more towards single line, single players. So what you need is called block mode. Let's see if I have anything I can demo block mode with right here. I think I do. Give me 1 second. This is when demos tend to go off the rails, but this one has already gone off the rails. So let's keep it off the rails and see what happens. Right? Why not? I should have a leaderboard in this project that I believe is hooked up to a graphic in block mode. So block mode basically is a different way of structuring your spreadsheet that allows you to more get what you are looking for. So let's see if I go to my leaderboard right here. Let's close out of a couple things right here so we can just take a look. Okay, so I can. Right. There is also the leaderboard controller. So if you came over to your leaderboard and went over to sports leaderboard, this can read directly from a spreadsheet as well and link that up. And then the other option is block mode. So this is more about linking individual options. So if I came in here to my program window and let's kill this display. Let's turn this off for a second and we'll just turn our leaderboard on. So if I come over here, now let's go to my preview window. I'm going to turn this graphic off, actually. Let's just go to my preview window. And you can see based on the way that I've structured this, I have all of these individual options now, right? Place one, name one, wins one, losses one. Every item in my individual spreadsheet is now an individual item that I can map to an individual spot. So what you are saying is absolutely correct. Typically, if you have a row of information like this, you can't move it in the exact way you want for a leaderboard because it's basically like one thing. However, if you use a spreadsheet, and this applies to Google Sheets as well, I can now cycle between the different layers of my leaderboard. So I can just drag and drop, and this is a six name leaderboard, so I have it basically built in blocks of six. And as you can see, this is I'm having some font things that I got to play with a little bit, but this is how you can do that. And there is great documentation available as well. Do I have anything built in block mode already? I think I do. So if I come over here, I think my agenda. This is how you build out the graphic in Google Sheets. You would basically just say, okay, these are the items I want to use, right? So agenda item, agenda. And then you could put a little space between each block of data. So as you can see, I could basically now bring in one and test into my graphic, two and roll call. So all of these individual items can now be mapped to specific places of the leaderboard of a leaderboard again, or you could use the leaderboard's spreadsheet controller. So a few options there. And then just one last point, if I wanted to come over here into my Google Sheet controller, which I will open up, which it's telling me I have opens, maybe over here. Now, where is this open? Data. There we go. And the way you would turn block mode on in your graphic in a Google Sheet is this button right here. So you would see block mode on, and you could just turn that on. And now each individual element you can see is available for you to map to specific places on your graphic rather than just having the one line, right? So if I was to turn block mode off over here, this is what you were probably seeing, right? And this is, again, very great for single player, single line. But if you need each individual element to be able to be mapped, you can just click on block mode on, and now each individual element is able to be mapped. Hope that answers your question. Any other questions that we can put in the chat? Did I miss anything? I don't believe I missed anything. Well, we got a couple minutes. Yeah, go for it, Jason. That's what we're here for. Keep going. Type away. If you got 8 more, ask 8 more. I bet everyone wants to know what you want to know. If they don't, tough luck. And anyone else, feel free to throw something in there.
We also, if you have any specifics too, I'm going to put Jacob's meeting link in here. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper with him, you want to meet with him, talk a little bit further about what it could do with you, match your workflow, what Captivate could do for you, go ahead and set up a time.
Do you need then like tons of lines? My situation, tons of drivers' names and a score that would change and move them. So animated leaderboards is a feature that is coming very, very soon. They do not yet animate in the way that I believe you are describing, a score that would change what order they are in. Uh, if your Google Sheet is updating, then yeah, the names will move, but not like the full block will move. However, animated leaderboards are like next big release. No spoilers, but no, yeah, just need fundamental. Yeah, so the fundamentals are basically that if the Google Sheet is updating, the data will update too, right? So if you are in your Google Sheet and my wins are now my losses is now 10 losses, right? As long as I move down to place to this fourth option and everyone else moves up, everyone else is going to move up with me. How do you change the people? I don't, what a great question, Tanner. I don't know what you mean by how do you change the people. Can you be a little bit more specific? What is my favorite thing about Captivate? Drivers, people listed on the graphic. Well, at the end of the day, the drivers and people listed on the graphic are mapping directly to your Google Sheet, right? So if you have, as long as your Google Sheet is updating, then so is the graphic. So if you need to change who's on it, then you need to update the Google Sheet, or you need to have some sort of the sequencer, maybe? Jason, it might be worth our while to spend some one-on-one time together to dive into this one. I don't want to. I don't want to. Yeah. Oh, okay. Here we go. Couple other things. Yeah, let's set up some one-on-one time. So, Jason, if you could go to that meetings link that Naomi put in here, the new blue to everyone, it's app.hubspot slash meetings.hubspot.com/jvernick. Let's dive into this one a little bit more together. Make sure that we are addressing your needs. I don't want to solution too much on the fly right here. Favorite thing about Captivate, I don't know if this is a cop out, but you can tell me if this is a cop out. I love how simple and complex it can be at the same time. I think it is unbelievably easy to get up and running with. I had somebody at NAB come over and say, I bought this an hour before a baseball game and had live data-driven graphics for my baseball game that night. However, the amount of time that you could then spend in the title designer and with our data controllers to be able to customize it to make sure that you get exactly what you need, uh, it just runs the gamut of being able to work so well for a very beginner user and so well for a person who's been working in things like Expression or Viz for their entire lives, and be able to come in here and know what they're doing. And I think that's a really hard balance that a lot of things haven't quite figured out yet. I think simple things tend to be simple and complicated things tend to be complicated until you learn them and make them simple. However, I think we start from a super simple perspective and then make it as complicated as you want it to be. You've had issues with RSS feed crawls not running smoothly, jerky as a result. I had to run them through Wirecast. There's a specific setting when broadcasting at 1080. Improvements to crawls are also coming very soon as a part of that animated leaderboards release. We're aware of some inconsistencies with them right now. Uh, I wouldn't say necessarily there's a specific setting. I'd say if you have the ability to just wait a couple months, ideally, that the crawls are only going to be getting better in the upcoming days. Any chance we could develop a batch mode to export the animated graphics as MOV? So if you could say 8 lines in the value grid, they could all be output with one command. Yeah, absolutely something we could look into. And Brian, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but yeah, absolutely a feature request we can put in to be able to export those graphics as MOV as a batch from all the items listed in the values grid. That's fun. You updated colors on the Cozy Lifestyle 3, and now it doesn't play the outro. Let's Cozy Lifestyle 3. Fun. That sounds like maybe the graphic just needs to be recached. So that's a great first place to start. If you have a graphic and you're noticing some maybe funky things going on with it, but you don't know why they're happening, if you right click on that graphic and go over to recache graphic, that's going to just, make sure that everything with that graphic is supposed to happen. And when you click on play, you'll get, it'll load up and well, you got to wait for it to fully recache. And then, that graphic hopefully will do what you want it to do. But I mean, I can do my best to reproduce over here as well. But that's absolutely something we can look into. Lifestyle. Ooh, a lot of Cozy Lifestyle 3. It doesn't play the outro. So you're just hitting play and it's basically just being taken off. I've also noticed that if you tend to be too quick on the play button, that'll happen. Or if you're using stop all instead of using the play button right here, that's another thing that will always play the graphic off as a cut and not as an animation. So just a few things to look into there. Um, but we are running up at time right now, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second here. If there are any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Tanner, if you want to dive into any sorts of other questions you might have, happy to dive into those with you as well. And yeah, thanks so much to everyone for hopping on today. Again, Naomi,
We
if you want to
had
take it away.
Yeah. So that QR code that you're seeing above Jacob, that's our new Blue Academy landing page. This will have all of past webinars that, we've just started, but this will have the recording to the webinar be posted as soon as Zoom finishes processing it. We'll also have the past webinars on there. We put links to our YouTube channel, our tutorials, resources, help docs, a link to Jacob. You can connect with him. His meetings link will be on there as well. We also have some special deals that will go on for anybody who's participating in the webinar. Right now, it's going to be graphic collections included with purchases of any of Captivate. So if you're brand new to Captivate, you still need questions answered, definitely hook up with Jacob, check out the page. If you have any questions or requests on that page too, in terms of resources, we'll probably start adding some FAQs from your questions that have been asked in these Q&A sessions. So Also, just as some of these questions are coming up during it, we can plan them for future sessions. I know that sportscast question, there is a lot of factors that can go into those sportscast hookups. And so depending on getting your account set up, some of it's through sportscast, you just want to double check. Occasionally we've seen that the username either has to be the email or the username. So just things like that. We could do kind of a deeper dive into those types of troubleshooting things, but we'll get an account all set up for something like that versus off the cuff. But definitely, if you are specifically having problems with any of this too, reach out to our support at newblueinc.com. You have Daniel back there. He is fantastic, and he'll work with you. And you have all of us too that he reaches out to if he needs anything specific as well. So other than that, I think that covers everything. We appreciate everybody being here, joining us. Thank you so much.